Hello, friends. So last year I did a kind of state of Maggasekha video. I think I'm going to be doing these things yearly. And so last year, actually, I mostly spoke about my own personal things, like what I'm going through and developing Maggasekha and things like that. But for this video, I want to focus more on Maggasekha itself. I made a similar video called Maggasekha Vision, which I kind of outlined some things. But I want to go a bit more in detail because things have developed since then. So I'm going to go over more about what my vision for Maggasekha is, including our the goals and the mission statement, and then we'll talk about the progress in Colorado and things like that. So, what I wanted to start out with the mission statement or the organizational goals. So obviously these are kind of a rough draft, but I think they cover most of what I believe Maggasekha should be involved in as an organization. So the first one is Maggasekha's core framework is the early Buddhist texts. The EBTs form the foundation for both study and practice. So this is, if those of you who've been following me for a while, this is no surprise. But it should be understood, I think, and I think it should be laid down like a commandment, as it were, that everything Maggasekha does will be within the framework of the early Buddhist texts, all the teachings, etc. Right? So this is, I think, a very important basic foundation to start the organization on, right? That everything, all the teachings, the way of life should be done through the framework, the foundation of the early Buddhist texts. So I think that's an important start. So the second one is to share the Dhamma with the people of the Americas in English and in Spanish via in-person and internet teachings. So obviously, when you do teachings on the internet, anybody in the world can listen to them and take part of them. Even Maggasekha, the Discord community that we have people from all over, every continent except for Antarctica. Right? However, as specifically as an organization, I think we should focus on just the Americas. Right? And when I say Americas, because I'm also thinking about South America, I'm also thinking about Canada, right? The Americas, all the two continents. And I think it's very important that we be able to teach the Dhamma in Spanish as well. This is why, I have an ongoing up and down relationship with Spanish. I've never been able to be fluent in it, but I would like to eventually teach the Dhamma in Spanish. And obviously other monastics who might be part of Maggasekha could do so as well. I think that's an important outreach. But this is the second main goal, that the sharing the Dhamma, right, with the people of the Americas, both via in-person and internet. Now, I don't plan to be like a Bhante G and be traveling and going all over the place 8 months out of the year. That's not going to be my style. I want to be. I'm going to focus on actually more the third one we're going to go over. However, yes, we will travel. Obviously, not only myself, but hopefully, if I have disciples, people who ordain under me and live with me, then they can travel when they're senior enough as well. These kind of things. But the idea is that at least in person, we want to focus on the Americas. And the internet, all our friends from all over the world can be part of that. So the third one, provide a secluded place for the training and development of men and women in the monastic life, living separately and independently of each other. So this is an important focus for me. When I thought about what kind of monk I wanted to be, do I want to be like a Bhante G that's, world famous, traveling the world, teaching Dhamma, etc.? Or do I want to be like a Lungpa Pasino who is a bit more subdued? He's not like a famous teacher, but he has a really good track record for raising monastics. And for me, even though, yes, I have a charisma and I like to share the Dhamma with people, that's true. I have one thing that somebody like Bhante Gunaratana didn't have, right? I have the internet. So I don't have to travel all over the world per se, right? This allows me to be able to, with like that Starlink or something like that, even I could be in the mountains with satellite internet and be able to share Dhamma with the world, but also be there with the monastics that I want to develop. I think this is very important, because when I think about the growth of Buddhism and the growth of the Dhamma in the West, having one monk who has a kind of cult of personality and teaches a lot, that's nice. But what happens when they're gone? What happens when they don't create a bunch of other monastics that can keep doing that? Right? I want to grow the amount of opportunities that people can have in the Dhamma. So more places, right? I remember I asked Bhante G once, why don't we have like a Bhavanan Society of California, of this place, of that place? And he goes, Jayasara, we are not expansionists. And I said, well, Bhante, I want more people to be able to experience the Dhamma, so I'm an expansionist. So, but this is the idea, right? I think the best use of my time will not be traveling around, but will be developing good monastics, bhikkhus and bhikkhunis who are able to live well in the holy life, to share the Dhamma with people, to grow their own places, these kind of things. So this is really an important focus for me. So the next one, provide a retreat center for laity to spend short periods of time in seclusion to study and practice the Dhamma. And so I think a retreat center is very important, especially a free one. I think this is very important because most retreat centers obviously are not free. But this is one of the things I loved about Bhavana so much. Yeah, it wasn't rich. Yeah, the accommodations weren't fancy, and the kutis are a bit falling apart and a bit moldy and all these kind of things. But there was an air of authenticity, of joy, of generosity, of being able to go and stay in a place for a week totally free, to be with monks and to practice the Dhamma, to hear the Dhamma and things like that. That was such a blessing for me, such a joy that I love, that I too would want to, do something like that, to have a retreat center that people can come to free. Obviously, these things, it depends on the support. So it depends on how big Maggasekha can grow, that we can have these things. And so the next one is, these next two are, again, highly dependent on how much support Maggasekha has. If I don't reach these two, that's okay. But I think also these are important. And so the next one is to disseminate the Dhamma materials in the Americas in various print and digital mediums, such as pamphlets, books, and videos. I think it's a wonderful thing. You see, like Bhante Yuttadhammo Siramangala, you have Ajahn Dix doing his thing with books within the Ajahn Mahabua tradition. You have many people, obviously, in the Ajahn Chah tradition, making books and PDFs and all these kind of things. And I think that doing this in terms of for the early Buddhist texts, for the suttas, and for EBT teachers, things like that, I think that's very important. So I would love to be able to do things like what kind of have in-house, being able to put books together and then offer them freely. Again, depends on support. Cannot be done out of thin air. So it depends on support, but I think that's important for a Buddhist organization to be able to do if they can do it. And then the last one is, this is a unique one. You don't really see any Buddhist organizations talk about this, but I'm going to explain why I think it's important. To disseminate the Dhamma in the pop culture through supporting Buddhist projects such as movies, documentaries, and other outreach projects that bring Buddhism more into public awareness. And so I'm going to explain this, I'm going to have to talk about me growing up in the 90s, right? In the 1990s, as a, well, let's see, I started the 90s as like 13, and I ended the 90s, it's like 20, something like that. So a good chunk of all my high school, all these years, and college even, during the 90s, there were multiple Buddhist movies, right? The Dalai Lama was very in the pop culture at that time, right? The movies like 7 Years in Tibet, Little Buddha, etc., where Keanu Reeves plays the Buddha, these kind of things. And I don't downplay that as an important part of me kind of getting some Buddhist philosophy, some Buddhist culture, etc., as a teenager, to understand that. I think that was an important thing for a lot of people my age. And so I would like to help that to be the case in the future. Years ago, when I was home visiting my parents, they were watching this crowd-funded Kickstarter, whatever kind of thing, where like big business, big Hollywood and stuff doesn't pay for these. People pay, and support this as a group. And it was this thing called The Chosen, which is about the disciples of Jesus. And I thought it was going to be, I was like, oh, what are my parents, they're watching this. I sit down with them, and I thought it was going to be really bad and, like all kind of stuff. But actually, it was really good. And I thought, you know what? Wouldn't it be amazing if we could do something like this for the Buddhist disciples? Like having like some kind of crowd-funded, people-supported thing where the average person, the average American, can watch something, that is, pretty good and good quality, and fits within the, how shall I say, when I watch a lot of the like Indian or Sri Lankan or Thai kind of Buddhist stuff, it's a bit, what's the modern thing the kids say, like cringe. It's a bit kind of weird. It's not really that interesting or compelling. But if we can do something like that, that would be more appealing to Westerners, I think that would be a good thing. To kind of put Buddhism more in the pop culture, more in the ethos. I think that's a good thing. So this is the mission statement, right? This is the current kind of goals that I'm thinking about, depending on level of support, obviously. What I would love to see Maggasekha eventually be. And now I want to go over the plans that I had. I don't think I put this in a video before, but back in 2021, when I was really starting to think, the COVID was kind of in full gear. My time at Bhavana was done, and I started to really tune my mind towards Maggasekha and what that would be. And I decided to do a plan. Like most people have a plan. They have a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 15-year plan. And so that's what I did. I put a lot of thought into it, and I kind of wrote it down. And I've been, contemplating and going back to this plan ever since. So I wanted to share that with you guys. Let's see, where am I at here? Uh-oh. Here we go. So this is obviously starting in 2021. So this was my 5-year plan. 2026. So by the way, that will also be when I'm a Terra, when I'm a senior monastic, when I have 10 years. So, this was, 2021 was my 5th Vasa, right? This Vasa now is my 8th. So essentially, we'll see how well my 5-year plan works in 2 years. But this was my 5-year plan. 2026. Living in Colorado, and either nomad in Colorado or small ranch, Maggasekha Vihara, begins. So I gave myself 5 years to be visiting Colorado and making contacts to see if I can live in Colorado by the time I'm a senior monastic, by the time I'm a Terra. Will that happen? Well, that remains to be seen. Progress is going pretty good, though, and I'll talk about that later. But that was my 5-year plan, to be living in Colorado. And when I live in Colorado, I create the 501c3 Maggasekha. So Maggasekha right now officially doesn't exist. And that's because I don't know where I'm setting down roots. And, I've come to the conclusion, I've thought about what other possible places I could go, and no other possible places pique my intuition, give me any kind of like obvious opportunity. So what I tell people, and what I can say here is, if Colorado does not work out, I'm open to invitations for most places, right? If people want me to come and start Maggasekha in their state, in their area, whatever, then I would be open to contemplating and seeing about that if Colorado doesn't work out. And Colorado is not guaranteed yet. It certainly is not. But it's looking promising. So that was 5 years. 10-year plan. So this would have been 2031. I'd be age 53. And this would be, 15 Vasa for me. So 2031. So I have being fluent in Spanish by then. I don't know if that's going to work out, but I'm going to try for me to be able to teach the Dhamma in Spanish by then. Maggasekha flourishing. Monastery property obtained. A full order. So what I will say here is my goals are very ambitious. Because the way I look at it is, you have to try to have an ideal really far away. You have to have really good, ambitious goals, knowing full well that there's a strong chance you're not actually going to get all the way, at least not in the time frame that you think. So for me, I'm making these goals ambitious. I'm shooting for the stars, and wherever I end up is where I end up, right? So this kind of gives me that push, gives me that impetus to keep remembering Colorado, keep remembering Maggasekha, not to get too complacent, to saying, oh, okay, we got to do this, we got to go here, we got to think about this, etc. So Maggasekha flourishing, right? What would that mean, right? I'm able to have enough support both from the internet and from in person to be able to have, to do the things that I want to do in terms of the plan, right? In terms of having enough support for the organization, for the place, for Maggasekha Vihara, and then enough support to start looking at monastery properties, a place where to build the monastery. Right? So that's by the 10-year plan. And so hopefully, maybe by then, by 2031, we'll see, have a property obtained. Property obtained and having a monastery, two different things. Bhavana society took years to kind of build up. This is how it works. Right? They have a property, and then 3-4 years later is when they finally have their first retreats and things like that. That's how that works. So, you can't, the property and having the full monastery, different things. And a full order. So a full order is 4 monastics. So that would be myself and 3 others. Those would be monastics that I trust and like, that maybe came to live with me, or that I ordained. So at least to have 4, to a full order. A full order can do various of 4 monastics as a quorum, can do various different monastic legal actions and things like that. So that's an important kind of a thing to be able to have. So that's the 10-year plan. And now 15-year plan. This would be 2036, age 58. Fully moved into the forest. Right? This is my goal. Right? This is what I say. I want to build my forest monastery and die there. I am not a urban monk. I'm not a suburban monk. I'm a forest monk, and I want to be in the forest. That's where I feel the best. That's where I love being, to be in the forest, or in the wilderness, right? In the mountains, etc. As a nomad, I spend more of my time in urban and suburban than in the forest, unfortunately. But this is where I want to be. I want to be in the mountains. I want to be in my forest monastery with my monastics. Right? And of course, sharing the Dhamma, teaching, using that Elon Musk Starlink or whatever, being able to have good internet, which most places in rural places, the internet is horrible. They can't be doing streams and things like that most of the time. So, but that's the thing. Fully moved into the forest, having the city center. So having Maggasekha Vision, which is going to be like a little house or a little place in like Denver, wherever, that I always want to have, because that will be where, on the weekends, monks come down from the mountains to give teachings, do retreats, whatever. So we always have like a city center. This is something like you see often, like in Ajahn Brahm, right? They have a city center in Perth, and they have the monastery an hour and a half out. So things like that. That's the kind of general idea. Bhikkhunis. I would love to have both bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. Now, it's a whole separate video as to the details of that. Where I think, would they be living in the same place? Would they not be living in the same place? All that. That's a whole separate video. But the idea is to have kind of, have these orders together. And by that point, I will be a Mahatera, which means I would be 20 years in robes, and maybe have a disciple who becomes a senior monastic by that point. Maybe I do what Ajahn Chah did and kick them out, tell them to start another place. I don't know. All ambitious, who knows if that ever even happens? Who knows if I even live till then? I don't know. But these are plans to strive towards. So that is that's the organizational goals, and that is my 5, 10, 15-year plan. So now I want to talk about progress. What I've been doing in Colorado. So I have been attempting to visit Colorado twice a year. It's been working out like it's around April and around November, twice a year, to make contacts, to meet people, to get the lay of the land, to understand Colorado in many different ways. And the last time I was able to stay for a whole month. That was great to be able, because that's one of the things. It's hard to make a lot of headway if you're visiting for a week or 2 out of the year. But if you're able to stay there for longer periods of time, and so this is what I'm working on, right? Meeting people, I've been invited to teach the Dhamma multiple times in pretty much every major Buddhist organization. Outside of like the Tibetans, I have not made contact with them, which is very prominent in Colorado. But like all like the quasi Buddhist, the lay, the secular different places, insight places, I've been able to visit, share Dhamma, get to know people, things like that. They've been inviting me, and that's great. That's really good. Because I get to know the people of Colorado, and get to make contacts in that way. So, I also make contacts. There's one Sri Lankan monk in Colorado, Bhante Silaratana, and Colorado Buddhist Vihara. I was able to stay with him for a week, and things I think went well. And I'm hoping to maybe be able to stay there again in the future, maybe in November, or and maybe be able to stay there longer as a resource. I don't know. We'll have to see. I also continue to stay with Thai monastics at a Thai Wat in Colorado Springs, which they quite like me, and I like being with them. I spent 2 weeks total with them. But mostly they don't speak English, so there's a barrier there, and I'm kind of cocooned. I don't meet many Westerners and things like that, but it's still a good place to stay. And I've also been slowly developing a core group of Colorado natives, Colorado residents, like friends of Maggasekha in Colorado, who are helping me not only to make contacts, but to brainstorm things, to figure out things, what the next moves are, etc. It's a small group, but hopefully we add good quality people over time, add to the group so that we can, build Maggasekha's footprint in Colorado in a good way. So this is what I'm continuing to do, right? I don't see in the far off distance yet a way how I live there just yet. Or at least have like a Maggasekha Vihara, right? I still have a couple years before that plan, before that 5-year plan has to be extended. But Maggasekha Vihara is still kind of nebulous. However, me being a nomad in Colorado, me maybe being able to spend, 4, 5, 6 months staying in different places in Colorado, that's starting to maybe come into a bit more of a focus. I'm starting to see that a bit more. It's starting to make a bit more sense that is possible. So if I'm able to, even if I don't have one specific place to live, if I'm able to spend most of the year in Colorado, I can make the 501c3, right? I can do a lot of different things. So that's where we're at right now, right? And already there's been possible opportunities that are arising. People have been quite generous and, things like that. So there's many things that are still nebulous. Colorado is not locked in. Colorado is not a sure thing yet. But potential is there, and things are looking very promising. Very promising. So this is where we're at with Colorado, I think. Right? I did my first Pindapat in Colorado, where I go in. I was in Denver, and I was dropped off in Little Saigon, which is an Asian area of Denver. And I kind of just had my bowl, and I just walked down the street, and I didn't get any food. I started a bit later than I probably should have, to be honest with you. But even I had this one interesting experience where I was kind of standing out front of an Asian market, and this Latino family comes by, and I guess what I see is like the mother comes and she says, "Oh, do you teach meditation here in Denver?" And I said, "No, I don't. I technically don't live here in Colorado yet." But I was able to give her the information for the local insight group that does meditation, things like that. So I'm doing all these various activities. I'm figuring things out, being out there, making contact, and we'll have to see where it goes. So if those of you who might be in Colorado who are watching this, if you are wanting to be a part of the Friends of Maggasekha in Colorado, if you want to help me with that, join our vision that we're trying to grow, then you're definitely welcome to join us. You can contact me. And this is for everybody, actually. This is, why I call this a Maggasekha vision. I can tell you 100% that any big famous monk you know, Bhante G, Ajahn Brahm, etc., they did not build their organization by themselves. That does not exist. Hundreds of people over decades put in tons of work to build those organizations. The senior monk is in many ways like the figurehead, right? So like the way I look at myself is I'm the one with a vision, the Maggasekha vision. But I can't do it by myself. I do not build Maggasekha by myself. This cannot happen. No organization in the history of humanity is built by one person. So what my goal is, what my job is to, besides developing myself, being a good monk, being worthy, my goal is to coherently and concisely share the vision so that those who would want to help that vision grow, help that vision develop, help build that vision can join us. So this is what I encourage you all. If this is something that is important to you, not only just Colorado, but building Maggasekha for the benefit of people all around the world, people in the Americas, etc., then I invite you to join us in the Maggasekha vision. Help us to build this organization that can hopefully be of great benefit to many beings long after I'm gone. I'm already old. I'm 46. Right? Who knows how much time I have left. But if by the time I die in the forest, I have built an organization that will continue to be of great benefit to beings long after I'm gone, then I think I will have done something really good. And everybody who helped me to get to that point will have also done something for the benefit of many beings. All right, friends. Well, with that, Suki Hotu. May you be happy and at ease. And I'll make another video next year. Thank you.